Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. assembles a team of superheroes to save the planet from Loki and his army. This is my review of the Avengers. So if you guys don't know, I've been reviewing the Marvel Phase 1 movies for the past few months now, and this is the final Phase 1 movie before I go and see Avengers Age of Ultron, which is tomorrow actually. And I rewatched the Avengers a few months ago, and after rewatching the movie, I have to say that I still love the movie completely, and I still think it's a fantastic superhero movie. The good points. For me, the best thing about this movie would have to be the directing and the writing by Joss Whedon. And I say that because his writing was done well for this movie, and his directing was done very well. And in my opinion, for both the directing and the writing, he hit all the points from the dramatic scenes, to the action scenes, to the comedic scenes, and especially with the action scenes. The action scenes in this movie are probably some of the best action scenes you'll see in a superhero movie. But let's go back into the writing that Joss Whedon did for this movie. I thought his writing was done well because he just hit every spot he needed to hit. And I thought that he did a good job of having each character have the amount of time that they had. Because it wasn't like, oh man, this character was in the movie too much, or this character was in the movie too little. Everyone in the movie had a perfect amount of time. And they got the attention that they deserved. And for some people, I've heard that they didn't like some aspects of the story, or some aspects of the dialogue or the lines that characters have with one another. But personally for me, I thought the story and the dialogue were done well by Joss Whedon. The next good thing about this movie would have to be the cast. Because like I said a moment ago, the characters in the movie had all the time they needed, and all the characters had their moments in the movie. But what kicked it up a notch higher were the performances by the cast members of those characters. Because if those actors or actresses did a dull performance in the movie, you wouldn't remember them, but they didn't do a dull performance, they did a great performance. Then I would have to say that the visual effects were good. Actually not good, I found them to be a little bit outstanding. They weren't the greatest visual effects of all time, or the greatest visual effects of that year in my opinion. But when you look at those visual effects, it's like, yeah, like everything was pretty much good. There may have been like a spot or two where like they could have done a little bit of work, but it looked like during those two like spots, like they did the best they could. And for me, I think the best visual effects had to do with the Hulk. Because I thought it looked cool when he transformed from Banner into the Hulk. And when you see the Hulk, you can see a little bit of Mark Ruffalo's face in the Hulk. And it doesn't look like a completely different face from the actor's face. The score of the movie was also done well, and I think the composer for this movie was Alan Silvestri. And for me, I think that Alan Silvestri composed one of the best movie scores, well not one of the best movie scores, one of the best movie themes I should say of all time, and that would be the Avengers theme. The sound design was done well for the movie. There was nothing specific in the movie where it was like, oh my god, the sound design was awesome, but it was like, it was done well. The costume design was done well in the movie too. And those costumes mainly had to do with either Loki or the Avengers. Some of the production design was good, and mainly that production design has to do with the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. Because once you see the inside of the helicarrier, I was like, oh yeah, man, that looks good. And really, the last two good points I can say about this movie are both the mid-credit and end-credit scenes. And I'll get to that in just a little bit in the spoiler section. Are there any bad points about this movie? I can see where other people have bad points about the movie, but personally for me, I thought this was a perfect movie. Well, not really a perfect movie, a fantastic movie, I should say. And that's why I'm going to give this movie, for my rating, a 4 out of 4 stars. I think you should watch this movie, but you should definitely watch the other Marvel movies leading up into the Avengers before you watch it. And if you're into action or superhero movies, then yeah, you should watch it as well. Alright, spoilers for the Avengers. If you haven't seen the Avengers yet, and you still want to see it, then get over here now, because I'm going to be spoiling the mid and post-credit scenes for you. Now you might be thinking, John, it's just the mid and post-credit scenes, I mean, it can't be that bad, right? And I'll say, no, it's not really that bad, but if you want to experience it for yourself, then don't, watch what I'm about to say. So if you don't want to hear what I have to say about the mid or post-credit scenes, then get over here now. So let's start off with the mid-credit scene. So after the title cards for the first set of credits happen, we see this moon and it's destroyed and whatnot, and then it pans over to like a bunch of these like asteroids and such. Then you hear this voice, and it was the voice of the alien that Loki was talking to earlier. And he's talking to this person that's sitting on some sort of throne. And the guy's basically telling the other guy on the throne how, like, the Earthlings cannot be conquered. Then the guy gets up from the throne, and then the other guy is, like, scared or whatnot, and he, like, lowers his head more. And then he sort of, like, raises it back up and says, to challenge them is to court death. And then the guy that got up from the throne, like, slowly turns his head, and there's this, like, eerie music playing as well in the background. And the person turns out to be an alien, and he has purple skin and, like, gold armor. And when I saw this movie in the theaters for the first time, I heard some people around me like, oh my god, it's him! Well, I was like, I don't know who the heck that is. So then, after I saw the movie for the first time, I researched, like, who the purple guy was, and I found out that his name was Thanos. And I read what his story was all about, and, like, how he was involved with the Avengers in the comics. And then when I saw some of the storylines that he was in, I was like, oh my god, man, he's actually a really big universal threat. And if you guys don't remember, we saw Thanos actually in Guardians of the Galaxy when he was talking to Ronan, the Accuser. But yeah, I can't wait to see him now in Avengers Infinity War or any of the other Marvel Phase 3 movies. Now on to the end credits scene. So this scene is basically a comedic moment, and it's all the Avengers after the Battle of New York sitting around this table, and they're all eating shawarma. And they weren't doing nothing, they were just being quiet, sitting around, looking at each other, and eating their food. And then it went to, like, the last credit of the movie, and then it went to black. And everyone in my theater was laughing when we saw that part. So that was my review for the Avengers. Hope you guys liked it. And other than that, guys, that's it.